following your own wild way can lead you to so
Yes.
many different things.
Yes. And that's really just like be wild, just unleashed, just like following that inner pull. Hello, 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 and welcome to the podcast Biz on the Brain with your host, me, Annemarie, where we talk about anything related to being your most authentic self. And currently, I'm focusing on chatting with a lot of manifesto women. If you are into human design, then you know. If you're not, a quick overview is that there's this, I don't know how you say it, like a discipline or a toolkit. There's like astrology and anagrams and all of these different things that help you be more embodied and like mindful of how we operate in this world where everything's kind of tied up together and it has an effect on you. And when I learned about human design, I was like skeptical, as I always am, but it's just so precise and sometimes really scarily, creepily accurate on things that I kind of suppressed in the way I experience the world or like express myself or like think or just have certain feelings of resistance, that it really felt like a tool to help me feel more self-assertive, to help me reacquaint myself with who I was before people told me what I should be and like who I should operate as, all of that stuff. It's really healing, and that's why I really like it, but it's also scarily accurate for a lot of people, and it explains a lot of dynamics. And we always like to kind of project and tell like stories about why people do what they do, why we do what we do, and overanalyze and overthink. I know it's not just me. And so for me, it helps overall with creating more compassion, understanding, and just gives you also more words and ways of seeing how all of that can manifest and be expressed, and how you can create the life and the business and the way that works for you in your current place in your life. There's a lot that's always shifting and changing, and it's just kind of like anchoring in the way that I like it. So I'm a manifestor. There's 5 types. The most common ones are generators and manifesting generators, with like over 60% of the population who have a constant kind of energy level. They can be like constantly working every day, consistently producing work, the worker bees. And then there's projectors who kind of not reflect back, but like they can read people really well. They need to be invited to actually perform the best. They can't just insert themselves as effectively as manifestors, which are like 9%, 8 to 9% of the population. So we're kind of rare. And we're the disruptors. We're like the people who polarize naturally and impact people to be triggered in some way, if that's good or bad, but it will initiate it into thinking or doing something that they kind of need to, or they've been pushed aside. That's a very general description. And then there's reflectors who have completely open centers. That means they can really reflect back to you what they see in society, into the person, and make you be like mirrored back. So make you really help you with self-reflection and awareness. And it's really, really cool. Really, I think they're 1% of the population. So with that said, really quick introduction. If you want to learn more, there's a ton of websites on there. I can link them below as well, where you can get a free chart and get started on like just learning a little bit more about what it says about you. And if you feel that it resonates, and then you can dive deeper. There's lots of people who do readings. I've also had an expert on the podcast previously who, can do readings for you if you want. But this is not about it. This is just the podcast episode about what it feels like to be a manifestor and to ruffle people's feathers, to be a little bit disruptive, whether you like it or not, and how it can be used for good to create momentum, to create change in your own life as well. Also, positively help other people, but also for me specifically, it can help me also with finding people that are so inspiring that just blows my mind. I had a little sequence where I just straight up fangirled for, 10 minutes. Can't help myself. But without further ado, I wanted to introduce you to wonderful Maya Wild, who wants women to be more wild in their expression and just come back to their own amazing self and their beautiful soul in whatever way and shape that wants to be expressed. So I don't know. Thank you so much for being here. I love that we get to chat, and we just met like last week or so. I don't even know. And now I feel like we vibe. It's just the bestest vibes. And so I'm really happy to have you here on this podcast. And we talk about anything and everything. And right now we even like started. And I wish we had recorded this segment. I feel like this is like a common thread I have. I'm just like, I wish I had recorded instead of like diving right in, because what a small talk. We don't need it. What is that? And we were just talking about beauty standards and ridiculous, it's like, I don't know, assumptions and rules pushed, especially on women. And you can't see it if you don't watch the video aspect of this podcast, but I'm currently sporting a mod makeup. I'm very proud. I did it myself with the beehive, with earrings I made myself for a photo shoot that I spontaneously had an urge to do today. So I did do that. Manifestor vibes. And before we talk about all of that, I want you to quickly just introduce yourself and all of the amazing things you do.
Okay. Thank you for having me, first of all. And your look is a vibe today. I'm loving it. Yes. I'm May Wild, and I am the creator of A Wild Way Home, which combines my manifestor energies around constantly evolving and going through trial and error phases my entire life. And I've taken my experience as a psychotherapist in private practice, a process arts, my words are escaping me, a process arts studio facilitator, and someone who is just always curating space for peace and ease for myself first, and I certainly hope that that expands out around me into the collective. So yeah,
I love that. You know, in tech, like little increments of change start with you and then inspires people, and especially with manifestors, that's the impact that we have in some form or other, if you want to be conscious or not, right? It's just like an example of some sort, or just like at least something that people can feel something with, and then they can do whatever they want, you know, be inspired or like hate it. Can't control that.
Sure. But because of that, because of the manifestor energy, and that we do dip and dabble into different areas, we're kind of like, we're like, our life is like a charcuterie board, I'd say.
Yeah.
But because of that, because we go first in that trial and error and all of that, other people don't have to. They can make a choice. They can witness our paths, and then they can make a choice from there. So like, you're welcome.
Exactly. That's what I always say, because like people never quite understand what I'm doing. I'm on the same page. I don't know. I'm just going with the flow. Unless I'm stuck and then nothing moves. And then that's when people are like, yeah, you're being like adulting and like reasonable, and like, who wants that's boring. And that's when I'm stuck, right? But like when I started, for instance, my entire freelance career after being super depressed and nothing working, I, you know, relocated myself to Australia, and everything was just crazy wild, things just happening. But my current focus at that time was just writing for women travelers to help them not make the mistakes I made, because I made plenty. I made the worst, I made the most ludicrous, I made sometimes pretty risky decisions. And I was like, yeah, I'm the example of what not to do. You know, like I'm the like what your parents should warn you about, but like I'm living proof that as a woman, you can still travel by yourself. You're not instantly eaten by wolves because the world is big and dangerous, because you need to listen to your gut, and here's how, and here's what to do. And so much advice, especially also at that point in the travel world, it's just standard, like sightseeing and some legal stuff, all important. But then it's just, for me, it's like, okay, let's just go walk and see what happens. And if you get stuck, that sucks, but here's what to do. Or like, have you ever walked into this random district? Or like, you should definitely not walk into this district. Well, I can't even talk. District. strict after 10 p.m. as a woman. You know, like stuff like that is really, really important. Like the way you dress in certain countries can get more unwanted attention, or what kind of taxi companies are more frowned upon by women, particularly, you know, harassment and all of like, there's so many unwritten rules in different cultures. And like circling back to the looks, I also noticed that that can also be a thing where you're much more vulnerable if you just go vibe in the way you always do, which I always, you know, preach. But I also sometimes felt that that is really inconvenient or can be dangerous if you don't know the unwritten rules about like what's a woman supposed to look like, how she's supposed to behave. A lot of modesty culture all around the world. I'm not like specifically talking about any which country, but even then, like just standing out can sometimes be so vulnerable because you're a tourist. And then if you, I don't know, go to Korea and suddenly you're dressed in all the colors and you didn't get the memo that people dress in black and white and gray, then you're like, oh, I mean, you obviously most likely already look the tourist part. So, you know, you get excused in some way as being already obnoxious. But yeah, that can also take turn for worse. And I like to share that at that point. And that in turn, I didn't realize that wasn't necessarily the goal to make women travel more. I mean, I kind of want to, but like you can't push that. It's also privilege, you know. But just meeting other people, then hearing back from them after a while that I inspire them to try it out themselves. Like, oh, it's my first solo trip this weekend. I'm going to a different town in the city, in the country, whatever. Going next country. I'm like, that's great, awesome. I didn't know I did that, but just this little impact. It's just, yeah, I love it.
Inspiring, exactly. Yeah, and we were talking about, because I think that we probably have similar cultures when it comes to um oh, what were we saying? Like our
Beauty.
appearance, right?
Yeah.
Um and it, you know, being okay with like giving ourselves permission to dress up, put on makeup, um have a different vibe from day to day, to not dress up, to not put on makeup, to be
Yeah.
as simple and plain and natural as possible. And like knowing that there's room for that all. And in fact, if we can take the judgment out of it completely, it is absolutely wholesome. It's the all of it
Yeah.
that we get to experience, the all of it. That is the wholesomeness of it. So maybe giving ourselves permission to take away the judgment around, oh God, no, I was dressed up yesterday, so I can't get on. I can't have someone see me this way. Or if I'm always natural and then I dress up, I want to hide away because I don't want people to see that I
Right.
have become extravagant today. And we were talking about what is it called? Adornment. That there are
Yes.
times and there are places when our spirit, our soul, our hearts, or just the vibe of the situation calls upon us to bring out our royal adornments. And I think there's room for it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I what I've really noticed, like especially during the travels, because I used to be so afraid to show people my bare face. I felt like that was disrespectful. You know, I grew up like even today, my mom can't leave the house without putting on basic makeup, even if she just takes out the trash. Like she just can't. And I used to be like that too. I would just like get like panic when people would just like spontaneously want to meet up. I was like, oh my God, do you have time to put on mascara? Like I need to draw on eyebrows because you know, I grew up in the 90s. There's barely anything there. And feel like all of the things that go on into just preening and prepping yourself so you're presentable with pimples, like it's so cool now that there's like these little stickers. I don't even know where to get them. Like, I don't think we have them in Germany. I don't know. But like, we can put it on your face. So everybody knows you have a pimple, but nobody sees it because like it's really not pretty. I don't want to see that. But like, it's also not, it's just natural. Like, you can't help it. And so, like, that's nice. It's a cute little trend, but just this madness around I have to look a certain way or I have to keep it up because my people might think if you put on makeup every day and then you go to work not wearing anything on that day, and people go like, "Oh, are you sick? Like, what's wrong with you?" Like people do that. It's so
I have had
rude.
that happen.
Yes. And I'm just, I mean, at this point, I'm using it for my own benefit. Now, if I want to look sick, if I want people to leave me alone, if I want to go to the doctor, I will dress in a way that makes me look super pale. So I'm just using it now. Yeah. So I'm just like, in your face, like, leave me alone. Like, oh, yes, I'm so sick. You know, like the mean girls, like, but yeah, no, that it's all ridiculous. And the more I travel, the more I realize like this is all just made up stuff. Like I go to this country, like, and people start clapping and calling me beautiful because I'm so white and pasty, and I grew up in Germany, always joking like, "Haha, I'm so white as cheese," and I'm crying internally. It's like, oh, it's like bad. Like I'm so pale, I can put me against the wall, and I just like camouflage, you know. And I mean, I kind of do now too with this thing, but anyway. And I hated it. I hated it so much because it just put me in the sun. I turned like crispy red. I burn all the time. I walk around with 50 plus sunscreen, you know, and I hated it growing up so much. And the more and more I travel, the more I'm like, suddenly I'm thin, suddenly I'm thick, suddenly I'm like too this, too that. And I'm like, give me a break. This is all like you come home and you realize all of this is just utter nonsense. And then I also love studying fashion across the centuries. And I did a lot of like presentations in school and university where I was just analyzing and how much of it is connected to social, cultural, and historical aspects. It's all tied up, it's all meaningful, and it's all just annoying. Like, you know, you can be super thin in the 60s and then suddenly you know you all natural, and then you know you have to have curves, and then in the 90s you have to be like super thin, and then it's curves Kim Kardashian again, and now it's super thin. Like it's just you women just can't just breathe and exist. There's always something wrong. They need to invent us to need to shave because that's suddenly unhygienic because they want to just make bank on the razors, and then we gobble that up, and suddenly like there's something wrong with your thigh gap. Didn't you know what that was? Hip dips. Like they just invent something all the time, and it keeps you on your toes. And there's this new beauty product where you're using this product wrong, and you need to contour. You didn't have any shape in your face, and I was like, do you know how 3D works? I do. It's ever evolving, and so I just like to step back and be like, yeah, you can do your own little circus, and I, you know, if it makes you happy, because I'm all about self-expression, and I'm so impressed by the girlies who can do amazing makeup. I can. So like that's why I'm keeping this on, because I'm proud I did this, and I'm like done for the next week probably. So yeah, it's arbitrary. It's stupid. But I wish that was more in people's heads instead of, you know, what's wrong with you today? And let me tell you.
Yeah. Or maybe more of a acknowledgement that there's natural beauty, which we
Yeah.
all have, and then there's artistic expression around that, which we
Yeah.
all can play in. Everyone can play in the arts. So, and that, you know, it's this, that, and the other. There's room
Hmm.
for it all. Um, and I think if I can relate to a lot of that in that I am starting to move towards my cronehood. I'm closer to 46 than I am 45. And I'm definitely starting to see a shift in my skin tone, and my smile lines are getting deeper,
Hmm.
and skin texture is really starting to change. And there's been a really interesting yearning and desire for me to really embrace that rather than chasing youth. And I think that that chasing of whatever it is, whether it's youth or a particular artistic form, the chasing of it is where it can become, I'm not saying it is, it can become a bit of a distraction to really tuning into ourselves
Right.
and who we really are. So I certainly love to play an artistic expression with my makeup and clothing, and it changes constantly. And I also really love the freedom that not having to do any of it brings to me.
Yeah. And I think that also comes with age. Like I said, in my 20s, I would have been just so afraid of any of what we just said. I would be like, oh my gosh, it would have given me like palpitations. And I guess it also comes with just expiring in society's terms, like, oh, you're over 30. Okay, you're kind of old now. Like, you should have, like, you're past your prime, all of that BS. And then men can just age all the time, and women we age gracefully, whatever that means. Excuse me. Right? So now I'm just embracing. I'm like, so I'm an old cranky bitch, or like I'm a cougar, maybe. I don't know. But like, I'm not easy prey anymore. I love it. You know, I love it. Yeah.
It definitely uh
Yeah.
weeds a whole lot of people out from being a piece of meat. That's for sure.
Yes. Yeah, like the male gaze is just, oh, I've always felt so uncomfortable with just being perceived and like looked up and down. I'm like, I didn't go here for you, mister. I just want to like vibe in this club. Please leave. Right? And then you're so conscious of like your skirt line, you constantly adjust this and that. You're like, oh gosh, I hope somebody like doesn't peek something. Is everything in place? Like, oh, it's such a time and energy suck, and I hate it. And now I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to the club. Like, if I could go in a sweater if they let me in. I don't even go to clubs. Like, what am I even saying? You know. But if I wanted to dress up, like, I'm still debating going to the grocery store after this, and I'm like, oh, I look like this. I'm like, who cares? And I'm curiously wondering because I've shown up in all kinds of weird dress up scenarios because I do photo shoots, self portraits all the time for fun and creative pursuit and just to, not disappoint the creative flow. Because if I don't heed it, I feel like sometimes it's like pouty and then just doesn't show up for a while. And I'm like, where are you? I need some creativity. It's just like somewhere like, no, you didn't listen to me. Oh God. Right. So sometimes I just have to act on it. And then, if I want to wear a wig, because I've got a ton of wigs, so I can be a different model, because I can't just pull up a model out of my pocket when I get this urge to create. I sometimes just go out like that. So I wonder if people actually recognize it's the same person in that weird yellow coat that nobody else wears. And she just like changes like a chameleon, like, like in spy movies. I don't know if people are like that perceptive or if I just imagine it, but I definitely stick out. I don't like the attention. I just do it for the expression of myself. Don't look at me though.
The manifestors stick out, and we're always
Yeah.
going to be seen, and we're always going to be heard. So it's a whole entire thing for us to have
Yes.
to experience and learn how to live with in a way that doesn't stifle our personal expressions, even though they're constantly evolving.
Yeah, and I've grappled with that so much of my life because I always felt like I was perceived often against my will, like especially when I create. I do not want anybody to look at me or see what I'm doing or just like, I just want to watch you work. I'm like, no, absolutely not, because I will make the weirdest expressions. I will be like really just in the moment. And I like to call it my zombie mode. So like I don't know what's going like I'm just being taken over by something. And then I'm just like working away like a crazy person, just like staring, not blinking, not moving. And so I don't like being perceived like that. And I noticed that I learned really how to shrink myself and blend into the environment as a kid. I was just a literal like wallflower. People like ran into me, people didn't see me. And I was always like confused. Okay, how? That's rude. At this point, I can almost control it. Like sometimes I can just like like a Harry Potter cloak. What's it called? You know what I mean?
Like the
Where you get invisibility cloak. Yeah,
invisibility cloak.
like that. And sometimes I just like switch it on and off, and people are like, like as if I'm like just appeared and spawned out of nowhere. And I'm like, wow, like you have no spatial awareness, or like what just happened? I can't explain it. I don't know.
It's our
But
closed aura. We're like,
yeah, somebody
ah.
told me that because I was like, how did you not see me looming on the horizon? Like, especially when I was like in Japan, people didn't notice me at all, even though I was like this hulking figure with like this gigantic backpack and was sweating and puffing. I was like mad. and it was 25 kilos. So I just wanted to put it down. I just needed to go to A to B, and they always took up the entire pavement. I don't know how that worked, but like they were always in my way and working so slow. And I have ADHD. I can't have people walking slow. I usually do like a parkour where I just like wiggle around them like in zigzag lines. I would be like object, like dive left, dive right. Like I was just like not breaking pace. I would be in the flow. You cannot break it. You cannot break it. And like even on the stop sign, I would be like, come on, come on, come on. Like a little energizer bunny. But in Japan, that didn't work. I could not hop into the traffic. And so I would approach them until I was like just behind them. I was like, oh, I have to talk now, which I didn't like because like I don't speak Japanese. And so I would be just shouting at them like, sumimasen, like, excuse me, and getting more and more angry because I was like, does nobody notice I'm coming? I'm running. Like, I'm here, like part the waves. Not even like I'm important, but just you can't take up all of the space here. And I probably did a whole bunch of cultural boo-boos in that way, but I just like I was dying, okay. And I feel like Japan triggered a lot of this kind of manifested anger in me. Like looking back at it, I was like, why was I so mad all the time? I called myself like Godzilla. I was just there like, oh my god, I hate it. Like I love Japan, but I don't know what got into me. Like everything was annoying. I don't know if it was the ADHD overstimulation, if I was completely kind of burned out from all of the traveling because I did way too much. Even had like blackouts where I couldn't remember where I've been because it was just so much. I didn't drink, like I don't drink, but it was just overload on my system. But like Japan, the first time I visited, was just frying me on all the ends, and I was like, I hate it. I need to move something. I need to like climb this mountain. I need to like and that's also where people like didn't notice me at all, didn't see me coming until I used my voice. And somebody even told me like maybe with manifestors you actually have to let people know you're coming because I mean some people say they feel you before you come, but I guess it's when you're in alignment. I wasn't. And so like hum something or say something, and that's something I hate to do. I always like it takes too much time. I'm already like wiggling around you in the time I could say something. I like don't care. You're an obstacle. I find a way around you. Like I'm like the wave, the water, blah blah. Yeah, but like that's what I heard is maybe a manifestor thing that people
It
either
is.
don't feel you or when they feel you, they're like jolted.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to jolt people, but
That
I'm not
is
gentle.
right. Exactly. And we do not come across as very gentle, soft people. So that is where our motor is in our throat. So
Right.
our job is to inform ahead of time. And it is one of the things that we are most resistant to because we're just trying to get it done, do our thing. We're very like, we're on a mission. And then to have to take the moment to be conscious of other people are not like us and they need to hear what we are up to, what our next step is going to be. And if not, then we can be very startling or we can be ignored or we can be taken as abrasive or
Mm-hmm.
which sometimes when we use our voice, we might be abrasive anyway, but
Yeah.
we have to use our voice. And I like that. Like you said, like hum or something like that is even announcing like
Yeah, just like breaking through that. I don't know. I always sometimes feel like I'm in this, when you see superhero movies and then sometimes they have like a safety bubble around them that protects them and like even like muffles the sound or something. Sometimes I feel like I'm in this bubble where people do not see me. It's like reflective, but also they don't hear me because it's muffled. And I'm just feeling like I'm rolling around and steamrolling people over if I forget to like announce myself. Yeah.
if
But also I
if
don't want to be mean. Like I don't do this intentionally. And sometimes just reminding myself to be aware of that takes me out of the flow. I'm like, oh, you know, just like I had no capacity to currently like focus on the outside world. I'm on autopilot.
it's such a practice. It's such
Yeah.
a practice. And it's so comfortable being an autopilot. And I think that's why it is so crucial for us to take our rest periods, which are most of
Yes.
the time And that's a lot of folks wouldn't understand that if they are not manifestors. We must rest. And it's usually about 80% of the time. And by rest, it doesn't mean lazy. It means that in the 20% of the time that we are actually initiating and active, it is so dynamic and powerful in that 20% of the time that we have to retreat for that 80% of the time, or else we will get sick. Have
Yes.
you experienced that?
A lot. Like, I think that was exactly what my Japan thing was about. Because, like, I initiated myself to go be a freelancer and move to Australia. And I talk a lot about that in other podcasts, so I don't want to get too much into detail. But it's just like I powered through so much for like 8 months. Like, I founded my travel blog. I had all of these collaborations. Like, I started my business. I met all of these people. And I was just also traveling like a crazy person. I'm like really good with anything travel related, and my environment for any human design people out there is marketplaces. So I love to just like do things and then just quickly dip somewhere where there's co-working, coffee shop. I don't know, just sit there, work a little bit, and then after like a minute of, or not a minute, like after like 2 hours, which felt like a whole week because I was just like banging out all of the stuff I needed to do. I would just go up and be like, let's just do something else, and then I just like climb a mountain, go to a temple. I don't know, like whatever drove me. And it worked really well for me to get into what I felt was natural in the moment. There were no constraints like in a 9 to 5 where you just couldn't do any of that, obviously. But also, it was so erratic from the outside. And often I felt kind of meta about it. I was like looking at like, okay, now you just wanted to have a nap, but now you want to go swim. Like, but now you don't want to go swim anymore. Okay, let's go to the forest. But like now you want an ice cream. It's just like you're pleasing this wild child who has these sudden urges, and none of it makes sense. But the more and more I did that, or when people are like, you should go to this temple, you should go to this, blah blah, I was like, stop, no more temples for this month. And I just like, that's it. I templed out, and and then people are like, you should. I'm like, I don't need to do anything. But like, you're just in Sydney once. I'm like, I don't care. Yes, but I can also like vegetate on this couch. Thank you very much. And I didn't do any of that in Japan. Like when I was there, I felt I had to do, because I wanted to do working holiday, so I couldn't find a proper job. Everybody was trying to make me go work in a maid cafe. I was like, yeah, no, no, I know too much, no. And I just also worked like a crazy person when I shouldn't have been. I was definitely, I knew it didn't even know I needed like rest cycles at that point, but I knew I was overstretching myself. And for what? Nothing. There was no pressure at all. I made it all up. And I still am so peeved because I was there during the cherry blossom season. So I was like just traveling around the country, like collecting the cherry blossoms here, like this country, like this town, this town, this town, like photos, 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 and just like writing about it. Next photos, writing about it. It's like I couldn't really enjoy it because everything was just content. And then I was still in Tokyo for a month and I wanted to chill out, but I couldn't because everything was content. And they always make fun of like influencers and content creators because like, oh, freeloaders, and like, what is this job? It's a lot. It's a lot when everything is content. I can't ever chill. And especially if you're a perfectionist and like kind of workaholic. And I was working every day and I was like, actually, you should go and see the Wisteria because I'm obsessed with Wisteria. And they have these beautiful temples with these beautiful like tunnels where they just hang from the ceiling and you just walk through this magical place. They have quite a few of that in Tokyo. They had one specifically I wanted to visit. But every day I felt like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't want to do it. Let's just work. I was like, what? Like, even as I was doing it, I was like, what am I doing? I am so tired and I make myself work. And I missed it. By the time I actually went, which took me a week, like every day I tried to make myself go, but I didn't. And then I went and everything was already dead and looking pathetic. And I was standing there like, yeah, how often do you go to Japan? Like, when is this chance gonna come again? And you did it for what? For what? Right. And so even the person at the hostel wanted to kick me out because I was working too much. And I was like, excuse me, sir, I'm paying to stay at this hostel. He was like, yes, you make me look bad. I'm like, how? It's like, maybe everybody thinks you work for me and you never move. You just sit on your laptop all day. And like, that makes me look like a bad boss. I'm like, you're not my boss. And actually, like everybody who checked in, I would always warn them. I would inform them, like, hey, I am currently working, and this is what I do. Is like the internet is my thing. Just a heads up, right? So like they wouldn't bother me, and I wouldn't be rude. Like they had nothing to do with me. They can have the little journey, but I felt it was important. And then he threatened me, was like, if you don't stop working here, I'm gonna kick you out. I was like, is that even legal? Like I paid you. And that was crazy. Like when I got all of these messages, basically, stop, stop working for what?
Yes.
And my content was terrible as well. Like it was absolutely no point. And then when I stopped, because I was like, oh, where else am I going to get money? At that point, I didn't even make money from the writing. Again, so stupid. I stopped and I was like, yeah, I just gonna explore Tokyo. I just randomly walked around, got myself a Game Boy, and then walked around with my Game Boy, super retro 90s kid. And I didn't even understand what I was playing because everything was in Japanese. But it was Pokemon, so I was like, I got this, I got this. And then out of the blue, somebody contacted me and they're like, oh, I saw you speak German. Do you want to be taking a German test at our school? We pay you. I was like, okay. And I like went to a Japanese school and took this German test and got money. And I was like, I could have just chilled. I could have just taken German tests and like talked about stupid things because it was just a very low level German level. So I was like, I can do small talk. I get paid for it. What? Yeah.
How did that affect you being on the go constantly?
It was horrible because at one point I really wanted to make this work. And I've been instilled this notion that I have to be productive, obviously, to make it work and to churn out a certain amount of uh, content all the time, because what are you worth if the algorithm doesn't pick you up, and then maybe you haven't worked enough, maybe you haven't done this enough, like, because I didn't just do the blog, I also did all the social medias. I learned how to edit videos and edit photos and like to work with also other brands, and they have all kinds of demands, especially if they see that you're a blogger, then suddenly they are like, oh yeah, you work for free. It's just like so humiliating. It was so horrible, and I was just nonstop working. It was like I was burning my energy. It was still like fun to me and a challenge. And also I really wanted to share my experiences because like I said, like I went on all of these adventures and saw all of these things, and I always wanted to give some caution about certain things that or just like make people better tourists. Like you see so many people who are just treating the world as they're like theme parks and be just disrespectful and awful and entitled. And I hate that. And so you can't just go preach to people like, oh my God, can you be less of an obnoxious person? So I always try to make it informative. I wanted to make it more entertaining. And also I wanted to inspire more people to actually go travel, to broaden their horizons. Because, there's people who just go on a vacation and then they just sit in the resort, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if that's how you then spout your knowledge about different countries, because you've been to Crete and you've seen how people live there, and you've just been in a resort and somebody told you something and now you're the expert, like get off, right? And so I really wanted to use this blog for like this big purpose of like educating the world and making everybody more interculturally aware, just like inspiring more people and like empowering women and all of that stuff. So I felt like it was so much that I didn't even get to do any substance. I completely lost my personality. Like there was none, especially when I got to the point of, oh, SEO actually works, sell your soul, and then there's nothing left. I wrote like ChatGPT. Like before that was a thing. Every of my text just like so generic. And that was just horrible. And paired with all of the kind of mistreatment I got from all of these, especially press trips where they just exploited my services and then demanded more and then shamed me and then also forgot me in random places around the world and then shamed me for that because they didn't organize it properly. I was left on Barbados. Everybody left. They ditched me in a hotel, or like they ditched me in the Black Forest, or they ditched me like in so many places. And then they were like, well, you should have, I don't know what, like they were mad at me. And I was super confused. It's like I'm like about to cry and everything's horrible and I have to pay a lot of money to like get myself out of this, and I'm like to blame. Anyway, so I was just so fed up with everything. And then the pandemic hit, and I had been meaning to get a base for the longest time because I want the best of both worlds. I want to be able to like chill in my den and everything is mine. No weird spots on these Airbnb and hotel beddings, like, I don't want to touch things. There's a random hair, like, you. Uh, I'm very squeamish, which is so funny that I still don't understand how I mastered the strength to do all of that with me having such a squeamish background. I used to be so bad. And having a base where I would be recharging and then just hip and dip when I wanted to was the goal. But I can't do middle ground. So I've been just holding up for the past 3 years, waiting for me to like initiate myself to go travel. So I like a balance, but I also wanted to be more independent where people don't hold their power over me and then make me feel small, where I can actually also infuse my personality, because I think at the end of the day, that's the best marketing, that's the best branding. That's what I'm preaching in my business. In anything I do, I just want people to show their personality because you're awesome. And it will attract the right kind of people. Because every time I completely got lost, I attracted all of the people who then took advantage of me and then doubled down and then make me shrink more. But if I like let my freak flag fly, I will attract amazing people like you. And then there's also opportunities that come my way who are like, I like that your videos and photos are so weird. Can you do something for me like that? you know, because everybody can do some generic stuff. There's a lot of specialists who do specific things and have these amazing styles. And I like to be so across the board, so in the moment that, you can come to me like, oh, I've seen this work of yours. Can we do this again? I'm like, nah, I'm over it.
Yeah,
You know?
that was
Sorry.
one part of the charcuterie board and it's gone.
Exactly. You should have taken it. And for me, that's also part of what makes me so frustrated as a manifestor. Because like when I get this urge, when I feel so excited and I launch it into sphere, but I didn't inform anybody, and it just tanks. And I'm just like I get so emotionally attached to this and feel so vulnerable to put it out there. And then people didn't get it because I still don't quite know often how to inform people because it's sometimes so out of what they get and envision and see the point of, because I've already thought like 50 steps ahead and I have all of these lived experiences and I combine the thing. And so it's like, so here's the thing, like with me diving into virtual photography last year, somebody mentioned it. I was like, what's that? And then I tried it and now I'm like all over the place with it. I love it. And I see the best potential for any kind of online business. I'm like, I can be in your home. I can take the photos real quick of your product, of yourself. You can constantly rebrand or update your brand, or you can work on your manifestations. You have the photos, you have like somebody to help you actually make it look good and have the quality. And you don't have to move an inch. I don't have to move an inch. It's perfect. Or taking you with you in travel, taking selfies is just so annoying if you want a certain level of quality, and just giving it to random strangers is usually a very bad idea. I learned that. So I can be the photographer. And I was just so excited and I hyped it up everywhere. I got a lot of people involved. And people are just so interested, but they don't see it. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you not see? I don't know what else to explain to you. And even in videos, they would comment, I don't know how it works. I'm like, that's exactly what the video was about. What did I not do? Like, and then I feel like, did I do it all wrong? Like, what is going on? And then I just maybe lose interest and move on and like ditch it and then feel like weird about it and crabby about it. And I'm trying to work on that because, obviously we are not meant to be consistently consistent and also complete things. But also I'm not at the place where I can just like give it over to someone like, please keep it up. I'm out. You run the business and I'm just gonna go chill over here. Like that would be great. Creative directing, all of that stuff. Because yeah, it is very all over the place with this specialist society, and also very disruptive. And not everybody likes it, obviously.
The disruptive, yes. It's something that I think about, and I think about how I didn't realize I was disruptive to, say, my parents, like, or my mom, like, had no idea I was disruptive. Um, just couldn't understand. I come from like such a place of innocence around all of
Oh.
that. But now realizing like how many people, even in my adult life, have felt quite disrupted by me, quite
Mm-hmm.
disrupted.
Yeah.
And finally coming into a place of being, I'm actually really, really not only okay with that at this point,
Mm.
I'm feeling pretty at peace and at ease
Love
with
that.
the that I cause lightning and
Ripples.
thunder in people's
Yeah.
lives.
I love it now. I embrace it. It's just like my branding now. Like, I need you to be polarizing, whatever that means for you. And I'm like, that was the main point of starting the podcast, not just to capture all of these intriguing conversations that usually then just evaporate. And I felt like, oh my God, this was life changing. What did I actually say? Like, what did they say? I don't remember. And like the main core theme around it all is also authenticity, because I think that is something that is really taught out of us. That is really, it's weird that the media always touts that. Like all of, especially young adults or kids movies are all about like being the underdog and like standing up for yourself and loving yourself. And then suddenly everybody's best friends, even your bully, like, that kind of weird trope. But it's always like, yeah, just be yourself, embrace it, be every color that you are. Like all of this nice little fluffy narrative. But then when you actually do that in real life, you get instantly put down and in your place. And it's wild to me. I never understood it as a kid that you just made me watch this movie, and next thing you tell me I can't wear black, or I can't wear this, or I can't wear that. I'm like, well, it's my self-expression. Like, no, like, what would your grandma think? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, didn't we just learn that we shouldn't rely on other people's thoughts? I'm so confused. And also because I grew up with ADHD, not knowing that I had it, late diagnosed, I always felt disruptive, and I always felt like that was really, really bad. And I didn't even know what it meant. So I was like, what was it that I just did? What did I disrupt? I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. And people would just be rubbed the wrong way because I said something so bluntly. And then they would add subtext to it, and they would interpret this stuff and project stuff. And I would just be like, oh, I don't like the shoes. Like, no judgment if you want to wear it. I don't care. But you asked me, did you not want an answer? Like, and they'll be like, you're so rude. Like, oh, I shouldn't show you things. I'm like, what? I still love that you love it. Like, I don't care. What? Like, I hated that. We're just existing. Or like, even with teachers, I would get into these power dynamics and I didn't know about it. I would just like fight with the teachers because I was like, this is like objectively unfair. I need this point from you because obviously I said this correctly. Just give me the point. And they would be like, oh, you're just being like difficult and you just want to like fight with me and you're like questioning my choices. I'm like, no, you might have made a mistake because I didn't. So like, I just want the point. Like, and then they would interpret that as this and that. I'm just like, I just very neutrally I just want my point. No judgment on you. Like now I judge you, but you know, but it will always baffle me that I would constantly have these random conflicts when I hate conflict so much. It makes me freeze and fawn. It's just like I can't deal with it because I always feel like I'm walking on eggshells, especially now knowing like a lot of my symptoms that people critiqued were just ADHD symptoms because they couldn't understand, and my brain just sometimes just froze and like rebooted. Like you're always so smart. Like why can't you just do this and do that? Like why did you break this plate? Because my finger glitched and I couldn't like actually get it. Like I didn't have any motoric skills in that point. Sometimes my brain, my body just glitches and I get stuck in the door because I didn't realize I had feet. Like I was like I couldn't adjust that in my brain, and suddenly I'm like stuck. I'm like, what do I like? What, And people are like, you're so smart. You get all the A's. Like how? Like, are you making this on purpose? And I feel like, oh my god, like what did I do? It's too much. And so I always felt like I was disrupting something. I didn't know what happened. So like, and then asking for clarification would upset people even more. So I was like, you know what you did? I'm like, no, that's why I'm asking. This is no subtext. It's always felt like disruptive, but as a bad girl, right? So I was always the good girl. And so anytime I did an oopsie, I would be even it would feel so world crumbling, and it would feel
Yeah.
devastating. Like I got a really bad depression from it and
Mm.
anxiety because everything was blown out of proportion. Then I internalized it, and I always felt like maybe I have anger issues because like when people were like in my way and like telling me no and all of the stuff, and then I was just like, probably they know better because obviously anything I do is wrong. And so I just completely let everybody dictate anything for me until I like broke out and like moved to Australia. I had my little breakdown. I yeah, and it's crazy to me how it's just so sad. Like I just want to just sometimes go back in my current body to my old self and be like, it's okay. Like I protect you from the world, like snarl at everybody because it's just wild and unfair.
Well, that I think about, like you said something earlier around the disruption.
Mm.
And because I think all manifestors, I think that's just part of it, that we're considered like the disruptive problem, like problem child in some way.
Hey,
But and I also grew up with the whole, every time we would visit anywhere and I would leave, everyone say, now be a good girl for your mom, be a good girl. And it becomes very people pleasing.
yeah.
But
And it's
the
like,
one
I
thing,
haven't been a good girl before. Like, why do you need to say it?
yeah, like
So,
I
because
say,
I'm
why are
usually
you
not.
telling me that? I'm always trying to do things right. Yeah. So whatever right is according to what their needs are. So it's really bizarre. But one of the other things that you brought up around being disruptive, and I want to say, I want to alter that script of disruptive
Mm,
to initiating. We are so
yeah,
initiating. We initiate other people on their paths. And
yeah,
some people find that grating and they hate it, and they can put all kinds of judgment around it because they don't want to necessarily do it or see it, but it initiates them nonetheless. And some people feel that initiation as inspiring. So you said, like the disruption rubs people the wrong way, and it also rubs people the right way. And that sounds kind of yummy, but but
yes. I
there's
love doing
all,
that now. It just really took me the awareness that, okay, I'm doing it anyway. So might as well
you
also
have
shift
to.
the narrative. Like, I could just focus on, like, oh my gosh, there's these people who are just triggered by me, and I could just people please forever. It wouldn't change anything. Or I could just be like, that's a you problem. I didn't actually do anything to you. So do you deal with your little problem, like feelings? Okay. And I'm focusing on those cool people who just jive with me. Okay. You can join us if you want to, but like not right now. Okay. Right. Where it's just like focusing, and because I
Yeah.
used to be so focused on like fixing and like not ruffling feathers and just different, away as far as I possibly can from me, because apparently that wasn't good until I just was like, I don't care anymore, have no mental capacity. And I started being me and people liked it. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do this
Yeah.
too. And then, reshifting the narrative because we always tell each other and ourselves stories about how we feel, like projection left and right. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it is actually not even personal because they see things
Right.
through their lens, and sometimes you can explain and not even like justify or defend yourself, but just like, this is what I meant. This is what, like, I'm sorry if that hurt you, and then try to be better or whatever. But like sometimes people just don't want any of that. Sometimes people just like that narrative. They like making you a villain, or they like being a victim. I really liked being victim for a while. That was just like very nice bonding with other people who like being victims, felt very comfortable because you didn't have any accountability, right? Until you realize I did make a lot of choices and I did let a lot of people trample on me, and you know and I
Isn't
did
that
make
yes.
initiations, and then maybe I pushed them too hard on people, and that's not my business. That's not my choice to make for them, right? And sometimes I can just like, yes, I want to initiate this. This is my thing. This is my baby. I'm going to do this. I don't care about your opinion. I'm just going to do it. And it feels like the most bizarre and illogical choice. But yeah, it's my consequence that I deal with. So
Yeah. And I think also like being able to just be at ease and peace with the idea that we are always constantly dancing between all those different parts, whether it's the initiator and the inspirer and the victim and the villain. Like we are always dancing between those parts, and we might be someone's um, muse and inspiration. And at the very same time, with the same information, we are a villain at the same time. We're all of it. That's the wholesomeness of it as well. It's more about, are we coming from within ourselves, within our own being, a place of peace and ease with what we're sharing? Is this a place of peace and ease? And if I'm truly authentically coming from that space and it feels villainous to someone else, or it feels any of those other uncomfortable roles that someone else might see us as, that it is part of their own journey, and being able to wish them peace and ease on that journey. We don't necessarily have to be in that conversation with them, but wishing that peace and ease for them too, because my God, I know there, and there's also that difference between like playing the part of a victim and being victimized, right?
Yeah.
And we've had both of those as well. As manifestors, as anyone, but particularly manifestors, you have definitely been
Oh yeah.
victimized. So,
Yes.
but being able to pull ourselves out of the victimhood of it is where that authenticity comes in. And sometimes it feels very raw to some people. However, it's just our authenticity in how we present ourselves.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And it is so unpredictable too, like how that can land with people. Because I've had so many instances where I just completely let go of the mask for like various reasons. And I was just like, I can't deal with any pretense today at all. You just get the unadulterated version of all of the quirkiness, all of the manic pixie dream girl spark, and you just like go dump it on people left and right. Strangers were like, "Hi, oh my god, you look so beautiful today. Oh my god, bye." Just like like whatever. And then people would just have the most insane reactions. Like this one time I did the where store to door sales, and I snapped because I didn't realize that they actually wouldn't pay me. They lied to me, and so I was like, "What's the point of working for nothing, especially under these grueling, inhumane conditions?" And so I just like knocked on people's doors and didn't ignored the entire script and ignored everything they taught me and what I should be doing. And I would be like, "Hi," and I would just like talk their ear off about anything and everything. They would start to feed me and give me drinks. They would invite me to their parties, and then they would like I got in that one day I got 7 people to sign up because they liked me. And I was like one of them opened a door and I was just like, I don't know, like explode with words. I have no idea what I did, but it was like, that was a lot. You're very bubbly. I need to process right now, but I'll sign for you. I'm like, what? I was like, you need to process, and what? You sign first? And he's like, yeah, I like you. I don't know you, but I'll sign. And then he just closed the door. And I was like, oh, I actually made a sale. Like, I actually get paid today. And then I quit. It was like, no, I can't stay here. But because I just ignored everything and ran with it, there were all of these amazing people who were then so accommodating. Because if you had told me that's try that, I would have been like, no, they would think I'm weird and maybe creepy or like just insane. Because I was dehydrated. I was like, I didn't eat enough. I didn't sleep enough because of the stupid job. I was just so worn out that I get really, really antsy when I'm not meeting my basic needs. And so they got a super wired version and they were cool with it. And I was like, that is wild. That's so wild.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, it can really do good stuff. Obviously, that's not very sustainable to have that energetic level, but it impacted these people who then like they sign up for a thing. It was a good cause, but also I met these amazing people. Like they told me cool things, and then they also, I don't know, almost initiated me into like different things. Like with these conversations, people were just like tell me, oh yeah, you're looking for a job. Maybe you should go to Magnetic Island. There's like a place that takes these jobs. And I was like in Cairns in Northeast Australia, like not anywhere close, but I was like, okay, I'll do that tomorrow. I just like did. I just like transported myself off there, like just rocked up at that place and just knocked on the door. I'm like, so somebody else, like some random stranger, I forgot the name, but they told me you might be looking for somebody just on a whim. And they were like, yes, okay. And then I just lived there, you know? And then they were horrible. So I was like, I hate you. I leave this place. And then I just like left and then I found a new place. And I was like, how? I don't know.
Following your own wild way can lead you to so
Yes.
many different things.
Yes. And that's really just like be wild, just unleashed, just like, I don't know, following that inner pull. Because I'm also like, I'm splenic. So like my intuition is just so on point, but it's also annoying because it's so quiet and like just once it just pinks me and I'm like, wait, what? Wait, am I hungry? Am I like, was that like, did I imagine like what's going on? And it was just like, shut up and just put roadblocks in my way and thinks that I can get the message. I'm like, we're not speaking the same language here. Like, you need to level with me. Like, what is going on? And it was not help me at all. It's so annoying. And so I learned to really rely on certain gut feelings with all of the travel. It would be like, that person's great. That person's really bad news. That street is really dangerous. Like I would have no information. I would just be like instant like notification, be like, that person. I'm and then it would be gone. And I was like, oh, which one? Which one? I didn't pay attention. Which one? Um, but I don't know. It was so crazy, but it's always on point. Like anytime or like just have this random urge to just travel into a different country that wasn't on my card at all. It was like, why would I go to this country? I had no one to go there, but like one day it just appeared and then suddenly was like, oh yeah, here's a place. I have it free. You can come and stay there. I was like, okay.
Figure it
I
out.
could stay there. And then more opportunities happen and this happened. Like it's just all this weird flow where you just have to trustful. And that is so I still can't fully embrace it until I'm like on the road. It's so removed from me now, but I think I always still have the anxiety with it. It's not just like I'm like blindly being like, okay, like the tarot fool card where you're just like, okay. I still have all of the stress that goes with it, but there's just this inner knowing that only when I travel I can really tap into because I also have this, I forgot which gate. I'm so bad with all the gates, but there's this one gate of the now, which I think is in the spleen, where you really just have to be in the now. I cannot ever plan really. I have ideas, I have like wishes, and then ask me a year later and nothing like that came to pass in the way that I ever expected. It's just like, oh, might be in a different year, whatever. But it changes from moment to moment, from day to day. And you can't ask me what I'm doing next month or next year. And even if I plan, like even with my social media, strategy feels so awful to me. It just feels like I'm having to write something under a boulder. Just it feels so dramatic because like a lot of people just can do it with ease. Like what's the difficulty here? But it really is that I can't complete things and I
It's just a
can't
lot of
just
wasted energy to
yeah.
be that strategic in planning ahead where it's detailed because as a manifestor your life will never be that way. Our lives will never be that way. So it's just this wasted energy that we've been
Yeah.
conditioned by
Yeah.
society to be like, this is how you meet goals. It is not how we meet goals.
No. And
So
then on top of that, with the
yes.
ADHD, I think there's an extra level of difficulty. And I feel like so often there's so many kind of parallels with ADHD. I'm not saying that that's like a difficult thing manifest have, but I notice a lot of things that if I read my charts, I'm like, oh, that's like a lot of ADHDers would relate to this, like not finishing things, like having sudden urges, the being in the now, like time blindness, like not being able to move until you get this impulse and this motivation, like not having that motor center and stuff like that. It's like, oh, wow.
Yeah. It's funny how it can show up as different diagnoses.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's true. It's crazy. And even that, like if you just look at my medical history, it's just again all over the place. And I initiated a lot of doctors to start writing about my weird ass, calamities. Because it's always like these weird, mysterious ailments. So whenever I have really suppressed something in me, I just had this physical problem. Like it started with my gut, like because I completely ignored all the impulses I had in school. And so I was constantly having problems with my gut and digestion, and my period was so horribly debilitating. And then it moved to the throat, especially during university. And every time I have like these big teaching gigs, which I kind of like, but then I realize they don't really work for me. I suddenly get this weird throat infection and I have absolutely no capability to make a single sound. Like they showed up in the most weirdest places, but like always on cue, where it's like, oh, I don't really want to do this job anymore. Okay, get you a throat infection. I was like, this is uncomfortable. And then, then I get physically sick, can't go to work, and I would stretch on until I like quit and be like, yeah, I'm done. And suddenly I'm cured. I'm like, should have listened to it. I should have
Oh my
like pushed.
goodness. I have one as well. I did the sleep studies and have a pulmonologist, and I have a diagnosis of narcolepsy.
Oh,
And for a couple years, I got the diagnosis, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago. Are you familiar with narcolepsy?
yeah.
You just
I
fall
I don't know
asleep
how it.
at really
Yeah, we
bad
just
time.
like so boop. Like
Yeah,
they that's how they show it in movies. I don't know how dramatic it is, but
mine was only that dramatic when I was driving. But as far as like I have to
oh my
sleep and I
God.
have to sleep now, there's no way to keep my eyes open. I was
Yeah,
aware that my eyes were going to shut, except when I was driving. Then they would just shut. And that's when I went and got tested because I was like, I'm
dangerous.
going to kill myself and my children in a car. What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
So they medicated me, of course. That's the only way to deal with narcolepsy, and it was with stimulants. And they were so hard on my body. They were so hard on my body. I was just like, I'm gonna die from ingesting this every day. My body just feels like it's gonna break. Like it's just too much. And so I ended up steadily changing my lifestyle. I'm like, okay, now, and I was seeing clients at the time and in private practice. And then I was like, okay, now I need to start seeing clients from my home. So I made a home office so that I could schedule in a way that I could try to track when I would get the sleepiest. But then it started, it was like almost every client I had, I was like super in it with them, but I could not. I was like, what am I going to do? I can't stay awake. So it was like one thing after another. I went from like not having to drive to the office because driving to the office would put me to sleep. And then it was like in the sessions, I'm like, I'm starting to not be able to pay quite as much attention because this is very important what I'm sitting with, and my brain wants to shut off. And I had the studies, my brain was literally going to sleep. So all of these different things, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So eventually I took the medicine, tried to get through it. It was killing my body. And I started seeing less and less clients because I'm like, I've got to figure this out. I don't know what to do. And I certainly couldn't carry on a 9 to 5 job. I definitely couldn't do that. I had to work for myself no matter what I did so I could make my own schedule. But it wouldn't matter what schedule I made. So it wasn't until so I chose to get off the medication because I was having to take more and more to even try to be awake. Um,
Wow.
And so I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, I'm stuck in a rock and a hard place. Like,
Mm-hmm.
work and take this medicine that is very, very difficult on my system and is causing other problems. Or what is the other option? Stop taking the medicine and just see where it goes. So, just more and more, I started leaning into listening to my intuition and listening to that which comes to me. And I slowly started seeing less and less clients, less and less and less and less. And then I discovered human design, and it all made sense to me
Mm.
because I'm not supposed to be doing that. And I'm not supposed to have a schedule that I have to show up for other people at any point and
Yeah.
be on someone else's schedule. And ever since I've really leaned into that, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how it is, how I can show up. I know that I have these things to share. That's what the Wild Way Home is about. I want to be able to share some therapeutic interventions. I want to be able to share some um, like nurturing and some nervous system regulation, but in a way where people can pop in at things that I've recorded in that 20% of the time where I have the energy, where the 80% of the time I'm resting. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm sleeping the whole time, but if I don't rest, I'm down with chronic migraines, all kinds of physical ailments. It's real. It is
Mm.
real. So they diagnosed it as that. And I had the diagnosis because I meet the diagnostic criteria. They did the brain scans. I slept overnight. I did it. The reality of it is, I'm a manifester.
Yeah.
I'm an emotional manifester. And if I am not living by my design and practicing my design, right? Because it's not like, oh, abracadabra. I'm just like
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
completely
you don't just
live by this
instantly
design.
know. Mm-hmm.
No, it's a constant, like, oh, like a constant curiosity that we have to keep around
Yes,
that, and a constant learning and a constant experiment. It's an experiment. But
it
the
is.
more I experience with it, the less I have to sleep during the day.
Love it. Yeah, I also notice when I'm like
Unbelievable.
so much more kind to my body when I actually listen and not push past the fatigue because I'm a night owl. Like I like to sleep in at least until 8 a.m. and I'm still annoyed with my going to bed after midnight. Like usually go to bed like midnight to 2 a.m. And often it's kind of revenge bedtime procrastination. For what I'm like I don't have anybody who I need to revenge procrastinate on. Like nobody like stole that energy from me. But yeah, but also being okay, like, okay, yeah, this is just what I do. Like I like to be more productive in the evenings. This is just what I am without pushing myself to be a morning person because I'm not. Like I will not like to schedule appointments in the morning. I will not function properly. It just accepted that and just also accepted, the monthly cycles, like the monthly energy patterns, or like when a period knocks me out, and I'm just like taking it a health day. I can because I'm self-employed. Nobody's like being weird about it. Only I catch myself, repeating things people said. I'm like, wait, no, be nice to me. What am I doing? And like ever since I did that, or sometimes, or very often, I just need to have like this weird afternoon dip where like I have nothing left for energy, but I will be in an hour. But like right now, I am not mentally like focused. And then I just like maybe get into bed. I don't even nap. I can't really nap, but just, getting undressed or just lying horizontal on the floor helps. And I, like sometimes it just feels so weird. And then if you start telling yourself a story about it, that's bad. But it just helps me. I notice that it makes me feel better, it makes me feel focused. It just makes me like, I don't know, sort my thoughts out more. And it's also a neurodivergent thing that's you just sometimes need to be horizontal, just like stare at the wall, like lie on the floor, look at the ceiling,
Yeah.
just hard reset on your senses, whatever, or like take off all of the scratchy surface that you didn't realize your clothes were itchy and that just fried your system because too much stimulation, like all of the stuff. And just being kind to yourself. If that's what you need right now, then that's what you're gonna get. No questions asked. Like if you need to remove yourself from this busy party because your battery is down, then I just do that. And I don't care if people try to argue with me. I'm like, if you start to argue, I'm gonna do the Irish goodbye. But I'm out. Yeah. Just honoring your body. And I think any type can really benefit from that. But yeah, we definitely need a lot more rest. Like I've noticed a lot of projectors kind of like naps, like actual sleep. But with manifestors, I don't know. Everybody's different, obviously. Yeah.
I think it depends. If I am not paying attention to a rest cycle, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not paying attention to that and truly resting, then I'm going to need a lot of naps. But I do typically settle down and rest every single day. And I know I even have a time span when it usually hits, and I'm honoring it. And then I'm like you, but opposite in times. Whereas although I do resist going to bed, I have a resistance to that, and that has to do with old stuff for sure. But and it's difficult because the people that um, I just moved out of their time zone. And so now it's really difficult because it's a lot of people who can talk later in the day. And I'm like, if it's after 6 o'clock, I can't. Like, you're not going to get a fresh May, and
Yeah.
you're not going to enjoy this conversation because I can't be present. I literally am not going to be able to be present with you. Please do not ask me again to schedule anything after 6 p.m.,
Yeah.
which makes it difficult for them because, they're in a different they're an hour uh I'm an hour ahead of them. So, they're all
Oh,
just
okay.
getting off of work and
Yeah.
not ready for a conversation. But it's so important that we honor what our particular needs are around our own schedules, what our
Yeah.
particular needs are according, yes, to the month and our seasons and um our cycles, our natural cycles, the cycles and the seasons of the earth. It's all plays a role. And it's so yummy when we start tuning into that and living
Yeah.
by it. Hmm.
Really, really honoring that because I always catch myself being like apologetic around it. Like, I'm sorry, I don't do anything before 10 a.m. Like, I just don't do it before 10 a.m. Like you said, you don't get a good version of
Yeah,
me. Like, you get just a half-assed version. Like, it's not good.
this worked out so perfect for us because we started at 10 a.m. my time, which is the time of day that I'm most fresh. And we started at what time is it? Was it there when we started? 4? I don't know.
It's like, yeah, 5:30. We started at 4. So yeah, this
Okay.
is yeah, a good time. Like I'm watching the sunset a little bit. It's pretty.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. So I just love how that's possible. I think also because we're doing it, we're showing it, like a lot of more people. Like I've definitely inspired or initiated people who saw that I just make my own rules. Even though like from the inside it always feels like, oh my gosh, am I like ruffling too many feathers? Like, can I make these boundaries? Well, yes, I can. But then other people are like, oh, I kind of want to like be self-employed now too. Like I don't want to have all of these clients, but I have the work and I want to just, like I inspired people who then started being freelancers. And I was like, oh, that's nice. I don't feel like I'm the most competent like role model to look up to. That's hopefully not what I did. But like I just like, gave them that push or like just seeing somebody do something. Like for me, I also see like I have a couple of manifestors that are like, having some kind of celebrity status or whatever, that I'm just like so love because I think it's also a manifested thing that we don't really like adore people like that. Like I've heard that it's not that common for us that we get like really like obsessed with something, like the fans. I never related to that. Like when I was growing up, like, all of the boy bands, like, Backstreet Boys and Sing, I was like, mm. I was like, I like Britney Spears and I had all of the albums, but like I was not obsessed. I like collecting information. Like I collected all kinds of things, like information, background stories, like posters, blah blah blah. But it was just for fun. Like it wasn't really ever about the person. So like I'm really like weirded out when it like now happened to me a couple years ago. I'm like I'm still so fascinated by these people, like and how their brains work, and like to me also is like a manifestation of what I could see myself doing, but haven't had the guts to actually believe in. And I'm like, they're out there doing the stuff. And it's amazing. It's like a template of sorts, but it's also just when I learned, oh my God, they're manifestors, I'm like, of course, yes.
Who
So yeah,
inspire which manifester intrigues you the most currently?
DPRE.
Who is it?
You probably don't know. It's so sad, but he'll be known soon, I'm sure. It's a Korean Australian artist, DPR Ian, who found like just his entire life story. It just screams manifest. Like I mean, there's no known time on his birthday, so like he could maybe be a projector, but I'm like, I'm so sure he can't be that. Like I'm so sure. No, because he just like on a whim kind of moved to Korea without speaking any Korean. Then was cast as a K-pop idol, became the leader, and he was like, I don't know why. Then he got like the entire thing disbanded after a while, and then so he started becoming the youngest kind of director in the country when that was just, the hierarchical system doesn't work like that. They were like, ew, who's this young one doing stuff that you're supposed to know at 40? He's like just making stuff up as he went, like, and then he just had all of these amazing videos because he just had this weird vision. And I feel like sometimes he speaks the way like my brain works. I'm like, it's uncanny because I see things visually. Like you tell me a story and I see the movie playing in my head, and then I can actually take that and make that into the real story. Like I can show you the photos or the videos. I can create all of that. But it's usually because I see it and I try to emulate it in real space so people can actually get my thoughts. Because I'm forever trying to explain, they don't get it. Okay, I'll make the video for you so you can see my brain, right? And so he also has all like different disorders, and so he made that into the entire theme of his discography that he released just out of the blue, became like a solo artist a couple years ago, and just blew up like overnight. Of course, he had fan base from his previous days, but he just like blew people away because the entire craft he just taught himself. Just like he makes the videos, he directs them, he cuts them, he like makes the music, he like has all of he does world tours, he like helps manage his other people in the company. He just founded that with his buddy who's also a manifestor, and they just completely like changed the way that is approached. Like all of their CDs are like these weird collective items, like this one CD from his friend DPR Life, who is a manifestor as well. He made that into this kind of packaging that you would get if you were to eat space food, because the entire album was space themed. So they flew to China and filmed these space movies, which look like a Hollywood movie, like full on like astronaut suit and like the green screen in space and floating around. And like, I was like, these are just like two bros making wild movies and music because they just decided to. They just were like, I'm going to be a hip hop star. I'm like, I'm going to be a director. And then they just did it. And then it just moved to LA, and like now he's making all of these Hollywood style things, and it's like mind blowing. Every time like something comes out, like you can see the entire fandom is just like, what's going on? Like we know something's going on because they never update. They just like announce that there's gonna be something, and then they launch it, and everyone's like, wow, like it's full on Manifestor madness because they just disappear and do the rest cycles and creation, and there's no information, but people like they've informed people that when there's nothing, people can expect something. If they keep updating, they're kind of in a more rest cycle where they don't have energy to actually be immersed in their project. So like it's beautiful to see how it works for social media because it's against all of the social media rules where you have to show up constantly and you have to respond. They never respond to anything. Like I've never been able to like get hold of them. I tried to pitch them a couple of cool projects, or like I don't like I just want to work with them someday somehow. I have so many ideas on how, because like I know all of they have so much lore, like an entire like kind of universe of stories that back up the entire visuals. Like you can just watch it and be like, this is cool. But there's like so much meat around everything. Everything is like tied up together. Like, like Taylor Swift does all of these Easter eggs and blah, blah, blah. Like they just build an entire like megaverse, like, Marvel, it's like fabulous. And so I just love studying that. Or like when he does interviews or goes live every now and then, like the things he says, I'm just like, that's a manifestor thing. Oh my God. I wish they would know. Like I'm sure they don't know about it. Oh, I'm just like, oh, because, when they say about, I used to be so angry when people got in my way and I wanted to push this and then people talked me out of it. It's like, tell me more. Or they're just like, I just wanted to do all of these things, but I didn't know how. But what they did instead of like, we kind of like started at the same time. It's amazing the stuff that he created, but I always did it by myself because I was like, nobody like helps me. I'm going to do it by myself. Like I can teach it to myself, and I did, and I can do it again. I did that. And he was just like, yeah, I don't actually want to do that. I just gonna find another person. And he did. He just magically slid into his DMs, was like, hey bro, I'm just coming over. You don't know me, but I like your YouTube videos. Let's be friends. And then they're best friends. And then they start a company together. And then they get all of these people magically coming in and complementing what they need. So like he has this entire team who works exactly around his needs, because with the mental health problems he has, like he has DID and bipolar, so like he blacks out for days on end sometimes, and it was a different person, and he can't control any of that, and stress edits that, like changes, it's so unpredictable. And so he's like, he has these people who know how to deal with things, keep things afloat, and like help him when he needs this and that. And like when he completely disappears, like sometimes he just holds up, like I don't know, like I don't know all the details, but like it's just like, so it works. You can have your own way of working, and then there will be people who help you and make it work, and you don't have to like push through or force yourself, or like have any kind of emotional loaded negative vibe towards it. They just like hold that space and hold that fort and allow him to just create in the way that he needs to, or in the way that the flow just hits him. Because like any kind of video and music he pushes out is so different. It's really also personal. So like he's just like, I just happy that people actually resonate with it, because it's so vulnerable, because it's just legit his actual dreams and how he experiences things as these different characters. And it's just like, if you think about it, it could have backfired a lot, like, oh my gosh, like, is this person weird? Like, I'm saying, blah, blah, blah. But it resonates with so many people. And if you like read the comments, people are like, you saved my life. Like, you made me feel seen. Like, I have this DID and people never understood it. And you showed it in a real way, even though it's wildly cinematic and over the top. It's not real, but it felt like, I don't have it. I can't speak from it. But from what I hear, is like people feel so much more seen, as if like when Hollywood does these crazy movies like Split, it always just like psychopath, right? Like it's just more humanizing, and just like also so impressive to see somebody be so open and share this kind of really dark part with you, but doesn't like glamorize it. So like, yeah, that's what I'm currently obsessed with.
I am so fascinated and looking forward to checking this person out. DPR Ian?
Yes, I'll send you the video, and you have to
Yeah,
start
thank you.
and watch it in order. And like, I don't know, like
Okay,
how deep you want to go, if you just want to casually look
sure.
and listen. But I can give you a whole lecture on everything. I can fill you in on
Oh,
anything if you're interested. I don't know what your music taste is, because all of his songs are kind of different. Like the first songs are a bit more like lo-fi indie poppy, but like it's really not one thing. And then the second, like the latest album he put out, is this different character, so it's a bit more dancey, a bit more funky. So, but his friend who does hip hop, so it's K hip hop, so that's an entirely different thing. And then there's another person in the group who I think is the projector, and he does all of the music. He helps them all with the music. So everybody has their own project, their own artistry, but they all co-create, and they all do it in the way that the other person needs to. Like they don't dictate exactly like this is how you do it. Like this is not a big label. We tell you to do whatever. They're just like, okay, if you want to leave the label for a little bit and do your own thing, cool. It's just like so amazing, the support in the community. Even like last year they did a tour around the world. It was instantly like sold out. It was like crazy. And I managed to get tickets, and no, none of my friends are fans. I don't know if that's a Manifestor thing, but I always have like a very particular taste. I like everything, but also like obscure things too much. That people are like, I just listen to a radio. I'm like, how can you? I don't get it. Um, and so I didn't have anybody to go with, but then I just like rocked up there, and then I was just like made a friend like in the group. And then I think it's also the community they created. Everybody's just so lovely. But I just made friends in those queues at the concert, and then we just like hung out at the concert together and have this group photo together. Just yeah, and then they kind of like stay in touch and like talk about it with me, and it's beautiful.
That is beautiful. That's inspiring. Also, it's just what a manifestor dream to finally be able to
Yeah, exactly. It's
magnetize the
possible.
people who are in alignment with our, yeah, that is
Yeah, and really the in
just so good to
circle
hear.
because they are like I'm like that's why I'm also so short that he is a manifestor because like he's always about this in circle. Like it's just really hard to get a hold of him. Obviously, they don't even have a post box yet. Like you don't even know where they are. Like they just randomly moved to LA, and then I was just like how where why like they have no registration. Like it's just so weird to like get a hold of them at all. Like they don't have emails, like nothing. And sometimes they just slide into people's like Twitter chats, like just fans will be like talking about something, and then he would just like pop up and like talk with these fans, and they would like get a heart attack. They're like, "Oh my god, what are you doing here?" Because he just felt like it, right? But like, it was like, damn, so cool. But also, I noticed like he doesn't really respond to questions. He asks questions and then he just
Yep.
listens and he's just like then he just talks blah 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 blah. Like it's amazing, it's great. But like it's such a manifesting thing because I like conversations, but I don't like interrogations. I don't like these typical interviews where you're like, oh, a question, okay, like let's cut off this. You're talking too long. I'm like, okay. But it's just like you go, you inspire, you just give us a talk, and every time he just freely talks. It's always profound in some way. It's just like how dare you be like so perfect? you know, like this troubled artist who does it all, who looks great, who's like deep thoughts and like so sensitive. I'm like, oh my god, like what is the flaw? Yes, I'm a fan.
Oh. Oh, you found the
Yes.
fandom.
I know. And it's so weird. Like my friends even sometimes she's just like because I like my best friend, I always make her watch the videos with me. I've already watched them obviously. Now I've started even doing react videos because I'm like, I just need more people to be fans of this. Like when I'm like a fan of something, I make my friends I initiate my friends. I need people to be on board with it. Like or also like another manifestor I really admire is Rachel Bloom. Like she's an actress. She did Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and that series is just the best series. Like so good and so. I think typical manifestor stuff, like all of the stuff, she pushed the envelope so much, and the critique on society and all of the stupid rules and standards and tropes that the media feeds us, like everything. She just submerged it. She's like caricatured it and just like put it to the extreme where you just really felt like there's a mirror in your face watching this. Like you think this is all entertaining, but it's just deep. It's very yeah, critiquing everything makes you feel more questionable. Like everything's questionable. You're like, okay, it's all about mental health and about diversity and about living in the patriarchy. It's just so beautiful. And yeah, she's a manifestor. She just like decided she wanted to make this movie, this series, and then she just wrote down like with a person who kind of like found her on YouTube because she just like launched herself on YouTube, made all of these wacky music videos about her mental health. And then the like I don't know, do you know the series?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
So great. And then Aline Josh Brosh McKenna, who produced a lot of Hollywood movies like 27 Dresses. I think Devil Wears Prada as well. Like she's big. She found those videos and she was like, I'm drawn to this weird woman. I need to do something with her. I don't know what. And she approached her, and then Rachel was like, we need to do this series. There's like 4 seasons of it. And this is what happens to this character. And like this season is like, she just had it all. She was like, boom. And then they just out of nowhere, like they got the pilot off the ground that kind of tanked, but then it was picked up again. And then she just like powered through all of the seasons. And every season, it didn't perform as well as the studio wanted. And so it was because it was also like this kind of weird niche project. But it had such a wild fandom. And for some reason, they always got renewed every single time until they needed to end it. They were like, no, we're ending it now. This is what it's supposed to be. And she sang, she wrote everything. the script, the music, everything is musical numbers in the episode, like 3 to 7 numbers in the episode, and it ran for 4 seasons. Like it's a wild thing, like all of the stuff they do it. And she was just spearheading everything. She was starring in everything. She was having her hand in anything. Like even the entire team, she kind of helped recruit them all, made it really diverse. So it wouldn't just be men or it would just be women. It would be like also Filipino writers and like Jewish writers. Like she was just like different. We need different. We need disruptive. We needed to be like on the nose. We needed to shock people, but also make them like aware of things and just I was like, damn, that series is just so impactful. And I kind of wish they would show it in schools, but it's not. What is a PG? Like she is very
yeah.
crass
Well, the schools
sometimes.
have their own idea of programming, so
I know, but it's just so necessarily critical of everything.
yeah. Well, I may dip and dabble into that as well. I don't do
You
too
should.
much
It's on Netflix.
TV,
It's
but
so
it
good.
is Netflix. Okay, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
Yes.
Okay.
And the title put me off. Like I feel like the universe kept pushing it on me. Like it showed me the posters and the marketing sucked so bad and marketed as like this typical chick flick thing, right? Which I guess was intentional because that's exactly what will be subverted in the entire storyline. That's like the main problem that they're facing. Like if you just actually get brainwashed into being this girly girl who just like chases after boys but like not really, because like you can't be seen as desperate. Right? But like from the get-go you realize this is satire, but it's also so realistic that you're like sometimes wondering, ooh, okay. Like ooh. It makes you question yourself, and it's also about mental health, and it's just like it's beautiful. Everything is just hilarious, it's entertaining, and it's got lots of cool music if you like musicals or anything. So yeah, it's on Netflix. Yeah.
All right, on my list.
Okay, good. I just like I loved like getting people hyped for like stuff I like to share the joy. Yes, like everybody be fans of this series and this person. I did initiate quite a lot of people into it. They're just like, I don't know. I'm like, do it. I'm like, I watch with you. I can like, because I'm always like, if I get really into it, I can be your live audio commentary. I always ask people, do you want it on or off? Like, do you want me to talk or not? Like, I can tell you a lot about the story and like the background. Like, I have so much random knowledge about things that I like. So, yeah.
It's
Oh,
beautiful.
thanks. Oh
Mm.
my gosh, I kind of like monopolized that part right now. Just like fangirling.
Oh,
Oh, what are you currently obsessed? Is there anything you're like really into right now?
I am truly what I'm really into right now is wintering and
Hmm.
not absorbing too much outside influence at the moment.
Oh, same.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really just quieting and tuning into whatever comes to me and tuning into all of the death outside and the snow and um I'm going through a huge death process and rebirth process right now after uh a very, very, very significant shift in my life. So um that's really what I'm into right now is just creating peace. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like as much as I hate the past 3 years of being like stuck and like I bitch about it, I feel like it's also like this necessary rest cycle where like this is what peace should feel like. Yeah, you can like you need to like be in it, like suck it up, like be patient. I'm like, oh, because always been like on the road, on the go, like on the job, like just constantly go, 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 go. The typical generator, like conditioning. And even when I tried to rest, like when I was traveling, I couldn't. Sometimes the lease would be up, or the visa would run out, or I would get like a next shiny idea, and then get the FOMO. And yeah, so now if there's nothing happening, nothing urgent, I don't have to do anything. Like here, I moved here, I was thinking, oh, I could start a local blog and I would tell everybody about all of the cool sites. And I did. And I was like, actually, that was a dumb idea because I have no interest to do this at all. Like, it was just like an idea, but it wasn't an urge. Um, right. And yeah, so like I was like, I don't care. Like there's all of these events, and I was like, I'm happy to miss all of this. I I've seen a lot of the things, but I actually don't care to explore more. Like I've never been as travel lazy as I've been while being here, because I always felt like this is like my time to just, like you said, winter, just really just sit with myself, even though that kind of stresses me out because like I want to be productive. How can I make this productive? Like where suddenly it's a
Yeah.
project to meditate and to do shadow work, blah blah. Instead of just be bored, please. It's okay.
And that, yeah, that is, we've been conditioned to avoid quote unquote boredom. When really, if we can sit with that, then we can start to recognize what we're suppressing. And suppressing shows up in the body. And if we're able to really surrender to that, then we allow whatever that is that we're suppressing to die off.
Yeah.
And it allows entry into whatever we're evolving into next. But there is deep across the board, across cultures, across the collective conditioning around going. There really,
Yeah.
really is. So it is a feat, particularly for manifestors, where it's the only way that we can be at our healthiest and most dynamic, mighty selves is by truly surrendering to that rest. It's just been
Mm.
a really beautiful time for me right now, like the recognition of that. And when I say beautiful, I mean it's pretty dynamic. There have been a lot of snot and tears around it as well, but it's it is beautiful, and I'm finding more peace than I ever have in my entire lifetime.
Nice. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you also learn to adjust your tolerance for non-peace. Like I remember when I like my social battery and tolerance for people has gotten pretty low. Especially when I'm in my restaurant, I'm like, I don't want to engage too much, or like I like I'm having a great time. Then all of a sudden it's just no, not anymore. Now I need to go.
Hmm.
And yeah, and honoring that and being like, yeah, no, I'm good now. Thank you for sharing the space, but I can't just keep this up because it will take it out for of me for the next couple of days if I don't listen to it. It will like exhaust me. And yeah, also I would like to think that the people wouldn't like to do that to other people. So I'm like, yeah, it's not you, it's just is.
Yeah, it just is. It's how I'm designed. And um, if I don't take that rest and those cues, then I do develop a lower tolerance, and my
Yeah.
I get compassion fatigue very, very easily nowadays. So in order for me to do the work that I've been brought here to do, which is compassionate work, I have to I do have to honor that 80% rest time. And
Yeah.
it is a funny thing to be faced with, when it's not understood at all
No.
by
I don't
society.
even understand it myself. Like, what do I mean with rest? Like, do I sleep? Do I nap? But that's boring. Do I go on a walk? Is that still resting? Like there's all different kinds of rest. Like,
Yeah.
mental, physical, spiritual. But what else is there? I think something else. But or even like with food, like sometimes I just like really want to have really good food. I'm a foodie. I need to constantly, again, being in the know. I'm difficult please. So sometimes I would be like, I don't know what I want, but I none of this. My body would be very particular about it. And it would just be frustrating. Like, what is it? Like a little picky child. Like I can't force it to eat. And sometimes I would just eat the same food for like a week. I'm like, am I not tired of this specific like my current super food is just I eat pasta with cream and nuts and like it's a creamy lemon sauce with nuts and cheese. It's like a summer food. I'm just like, what? It's like I think I learned that in Sicily. Totally
Sounds
kind of butchered
delicious.
that, but it's beautiful. Like it's so nice. It's so light and it's kind of healthy. I mean, the cream probably not, but like it's what I just want to eat right now. Like nothing else appeals, and then I just have to do that, and I have to cook, and I don't. I like cooking sometimes, and I like it a lot, and then I hate cooking other times, and I loathe it so much. And it's just this constant, yeah, honoring what is it, where am I currently, and then instead of
Yeah.
forcing myself to eat bread like the Germans do, like, oh yeah, just eat bread, it's the easiest. And we were like chewing on it forever. I'm like, I don't want to swallow it. It's not that it's bad, it's just like it doesn't please me. There even is like even yesterday I wrote about there's even a gate for that which says the exact same thing. I'm like, can you stop being so creepy, human design? Like, how do you
It
know?
is really um amazing. It is pretty, it's like just a magical system when you start
Yes,
diving into it and recognizing like, holy shit, I've never felt so understood in my entire life.
right.
Now it's my job to just figure out how to decondition from it all. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and just accepting it. It doesn't have to be like, oh, suddenly you have all of these new rules, so like you have to follow them or like preach them and like make people see reason. It's not that, but it just helps me decondition, like I said, or just unlearn all of these patterns that I feel like, oh, they don't serve me anymore, or like maybe never did. But it's something to anchor yourself with, and
Huh.
especially when I see things that my chart says about me and that I remember telling people when I was young, and then they talked me out of it. They're like, "This can't be it. This doesn't sound right." And then would be like, "Okay, I guess not." Right? And then seeing it that it was supposed to be like that. It didn't make this app. It's actually okay. I think it just teaches you self-compassion and also extends that to others because as much as you can break people down into types, they're all so widely different. Everybody has these different needs and backstories, and maybe they have some conditioning or maybe they don't, or like this and that. At the end of the day, you don't know, maybe they don't know, but we just should accept people as they are right now instead of just shaping them into what we kind of want or see or think we see. And that is also so messy because we're also emotional creatures. So, but yeah, I feel like it's a great tool for understanding and communicating.
It's a great tool for understanding and deconditioning
Yeah.
ourselves, right? Because everyone is so different. There's so many different gates, there's so many, everyone's so different. And honestly, that is our job. Going back to A Wild Way Home, I'm talking about this is my inspiration around this is what I'm doing around my wild way home, and everyone has their own way home. Everyone
Yes.
has their own way home. And to be able to really like make the choice to tune into that is an action, it's just a magical journey. Not without
Yes.
trips and stumbles, but it's also it's really a wonderful journey.
It is. And quick question. I feel like this is the perfect way to wrap this up, but yeah, what is the perfect home? Like, what is returning home? Home to what? Like, how would you define that? Because I think it could be like people, places, yourself, like anything, a feeling. What is it for you?
Gosh, I don't know. That might change. For
Yeah,
me,
fair.
yeah, so right now I would say my way home, my journey home is never going to end throughout my entire lifetime.
Mm.
Um, and I'm always striving for the path that's going to bring me more peace, more ease, and living in an environment that is community supported and earth based.
Love it. That's beautiful. That's profound. I love it. Oh, thank you so much. Is there
Thank you.
something we haven't touched upon that you really want to leave the audience with?
No, I'm just
Or
blessings on everyone's journey home. That's it. Thank
I
you so
love it.
much.
Thank you. Where can people find you and connect with you?
So I'm on Patreon on A Wild Way Home. And I'm also on Instagram as I am the Feral Queen.
I love it. We need a bit more feral and disruptive. I think
More
everybody
feral
does.
and disruptive. Absolutely.
Yes, in the
I'm
best
gonna
way. It's a
break the
compliment.
rules. Keep your pinkies
Yes,
up.
please, like mix things up. Like make like just like ruffling people's feathers. Like, you just walk by people and you just like mess up their hair and you just like dip. Yeah, people are like, wait,
We
what?
need to ruffle our own feathers.
Yes. Ourselves the most. Yes, please.
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. It was lovely having you.
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy. Thank you. Bye.
Have so much joy. Bye.
You too. Okay, we did it.
Yay.
And that was the podcast episode. It has been a long one, for sure. It didn't feel like that, not at all. But I enjoyed everything of it, and I hope you also appreciated the mod look that I put myself in for the photo shoot. If you didn't know, I do a ton of different things around creative work. Like, I gave myself the title Creative Mastermind because I do so many things. It's hard to summarize. I do photography for brands, for personal, for creative purposes. I do video, which I film and I can edit and I can help you with the concepting. And I do social media marketing where I can help you with the visual creative strategy and actually also do it for you and with you. And I do specifically virtual photography where I can connect with anybody in the world, anywhere, as long as they have internet and their phone. And we can have a professional photo session together, which I just love it so much because it allows you to be having your assistant to take amazing photos of you that are the quality you want to represent your brand, but you're hands free. You don't have to direct anything. You could just like release and just ease into that situation. And it's a lot of fun because I'm super silly and colorful and have all the wild ideas that are also, in a way, cater to you. Like, I want people to be comfortable and have fun. Like, I do not want to push people into something that they really don't want to do. That's not the goal. I want them to show their beautiful essence and, yeah, practice that self-empowerment. And I like to do that through visuals. That's my medium, if you will. And if any of that resonated with you, you can connect with me or May on the social media links down below. They're all linked. You can just say hi to us. And then I hope I hear you. Well, you will hear me in the next podcast episode. And I wish you a fabulous week. Bye.